And welcome back, everybody. And we're now in the module looking at systems and process. And I'm delighted to welcome Stephen Tweed back with us. And Stephen, you've done some great work in this area. And I think it's often, if you walk into a care setting, it can be quite chaotic. The recruitment can be quite reactive, place an ad and deal with what comes in. But it's so important, isn't it, to have process and systems. So tell us a bit more about your approach and some of your recommendations.
Well, as you said, I tend to be sort of linear left brain kind of guy and tend to think about doing things in the way of a system. But as we have studied the whole home care marketplace in the US and worked with the CEOs of these larger companies, one of the things I learned is that they're all systems thinkers, that they think in terms of having a system. And my daughter Jill, who works with me, and I know you have talked with, went to a seminar a couple of years ago for our customer relationship management software system. And one of the speakers there was talking about the idea of systematizing your business. And he said, anything that you do every day, you have to have a system. And the whole notion of it is people and processes and repetition and consistency. And so we look at what do the people need to do the same way, and what can we automate with technology, and how do we put those together to create a system that's highly repeatable and does it the same way every time. And so once you systematize what you do every day, then what do you do 3 times a week? What are the things that you do once a week? And so in building your system or your company, putting in place these systems. And so as we looked at conquering the caregiver recruiting and retention crisis, we realized that we needed to have a system. And so we created what we call the caregiver quality system, which is define your best caregivers, attract the best, select the best, hire and onboard the best, develop and train the best, recognize and reward the best, and retain the best. So it's a 7-step system. And so then we went out and did some research around define your best caregivers. And I know you've done similar research and we've learned similar kinds of things about the folks who are typically the best caregivers. And we define the best based on client satisfaction, the people that they're caring for, and dependability, the caregivers who show up consistently. And based on that, we studied those best caregivers. And from that, we're then able to go out and look at, okay, where do we find folks who fit that demographic profile?
Right.
How do we attract them? How do we select them? How do we onboard and hire them, all the way through the 7 steps?
Perfect. And I think that is the starting point for all of this. And we've covered this elsewhere in the course, is knowing who you actually are going after, who succeed. And then having a system to both reach out and attract them, as we've talked about, and where the sources you might find those people, as we've talked about. And then obviously having an organized system so that you try and make the candidate experience as good, as pleasant as possible, and as connected as possible. And I think, what systems will allow you to do, of course, is to measure. And so you're very, I know, enthusiastic about the value of data. I mean, there's a lot of the insights you found are that way. So tell us a bit more about the sort of measuring, the KPIs, the value, because often care businesses have this data, but it's on a spreadsheet perhaps or something like that.
Yeah. Matter of fact, we joke about it because I have a very dear friend in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, who's a professional speaker, and she's dubbed me Data Man. And she made me a bright purple cape with yellow Data Man across the back. So we joke about that. But yeah, I'm very much one who believes that what gets measured gets managed, what gets rewarded gets repeated. And so in setting up your system, I think of it in the form of a funnel. And we're putting high quality applicants into the top of the funnel, and then we're filtering them out. And if we do a good job, we get a steady stream of high quality new hires coming out the bottom of the funnel. And so we've actually created a set of metrics for each phase of the funnel. So we look at how many applicants go in the top of the funnel, and where they come from. How many are coming from your employee referral program? How many are coming from your online job boards? How many are coming from your face-to-face recruiting in the community? And then as they filter down through, when you screen them out, you do your initial telephone screen, you do your pre-employment assessment, you do your interviews. One of the things we've added is what we call a culture fit interview. And then as we go down through the criminal background checks and drug screens and all of the elements that will filter a person out, we want to keep track of those numbers. And then how many new hires, and then how many what I call net new hires. We talked about turnover. Turnover is 66.7% in 2017 in the US. And so if 2/3 of your caregivers are leaving every year, if you want to grow your agency, you have to have net new hires. So how many net new hires are we? And then we look at 90-day turnover rate. As we mentioned earlier, 80% of turnover happens in the first 90 days. And so what's the 90-day turnover rate? And we can take that all the way back to the original sourcing of the people that are here after 90 days. How many of them came from online job boards? How many of them came from employee referrals? How many of them came from other face-to-face networking sources? And then 1-year retention rates. And I love the video you did earlier on looking at 1-year retention rates by source. And the only way you get that is to track it and measure it.
That's very true. And I think, my view is that one of the most important recruitment metrics is who stayed a year, because that's a long service award in many cases in a frontline care role. Those people stuck at it, and that is one measure of quality. And if we focus very much on, look at the amount of applications that are in my inbox, that is not a measure that you can reliably build a business on the back of. So, and I know a lot of your work is about educating people and CEOs in these businesses across the US to understand that it's a different approach to recruitment. And in fact, there's so much we could talk about, because related to this is people ask me often, what sort of recruiter should I get? A recruiter from a high street recruitment firm? Well, often they're bonused, if you like, on getting someone into an organization, and that's where it stops. And in fact, there's a lot more to the story in an in-house setting and also in a care setting. But just while I've got you, Stephen, as well on this, technology, of course, is another question I'm asked, is what sorts of technologies can help this system. And I don't know if you've seen the same. I've seen in the last couple of years an increase in certainly care providers looking at something like an applicant tracking system. Do you have a view on the sort of technologies that you see over there that either help or may hinder, actually, the recruitment process? What sort of technologies would you use or recommend?
Well, clearly having an applicant tracking system, and we have looked at many applicant tracking systems that are available online, and we've looked at how we can integrate our employee our pre-employment assessment tool, the same tool that you use with your clients, we use here in the US, and we look at how we can integrate that into applicant tracking so that we can automate as much of it as possible. And it's interesting, people sometimes are expressing some concern about too much automation, feeling that it will be too sterile or too rigid. But what we've learned is that when you have an effective system and you automate as much of the system as possible, it frees up the recruiter and the manager who's making a selection decision to be more compassionate, to be more personal, to be more engaging with the applicant, because they're not having to worry about all those other pieces, that the system flows, and that they get more time to spend with that applicant, finding out about their work ethic and their core values and their level of compassion, and making a good selection decision. And then they've got it automated, and they're using text messaging to reach out to applicants and to reach out to caregivers, and they're using other technology tools to make the process easy so that they can focus on the people dimension of this whole interaction.
That's it's an excellent point, and I think if you analysed, the most recruiters or managers, if they're trying to handle this as well, the amount of time where recruitment tasks are low value tasks, which automation hopefully can help with, and exactly as you say, to have high quality contact with these people, to make the company, build a relationship with them, listen to them, and their story is a very, very good point. And hopefully more technologies we won't even, or are not aware of yet, will be heading down the pipe and can help us some more.
And another part of this automation is that it gives that recruiter more time to get out of their office and go out into the community and build relationships, because this is a relationship business. And the best referrals are employee referrals and referrals from past clients or families of clients, or centers of influence in the community. And as you know from your research, the best caregivers aren't necessarily the ones that come from the online job boards. They come from a referral from a trusted source. And so getting out of the office and going out there and interacting and having conversations and networking, but you can only do that if your office systems work efficiently and effectively.
That's a very, very good point. And that, I mean, it just beautifully summarizes the importance of having a system instead of, trying to deal with everything as it comes in. So that was, thank you so much for your insights there, Stephen. Really, really appreciated. And thank you again.
All right. We'll talk to you on the next module.
Talk to you then. Thank you.